Crime, drug use, homelessness all plagued MacArthur Park for decades.
The problems in and around MacArthur Park are getting worse, and those who spend time there every day say they're fed up.
You see the homeless problem, the drug addicts and stuff, 24 hours just hanging out there.
Unless you're trying to buy a fake ID, if there's one public park in Los Angeles that just about any local would tell you to avoid, I guarantee MacArthur Park would be high on that list. Known for its depraved atmosphere of open-air drug use and gang activity, nearly every review I've read about the park online had something negative to say. But it didn't always have this bad reputation. In fact, over 100 years ago, this Los Angeles park was considered the jewel in the crown of the city's park system. Opening in 1890 and originally named Westlake Park, the area was originally a marshy wetland and neighborhood dump. The mayor at the time, William H. Workman, by all accounts a successful politician and businessman, and who also owned a large amount of undeveloped real estate in the area, spearheaded an effort to transform this 35-acre parcel of wasteland into a gorgeous urban oasis for the growing population of Los Angeles. And not surprisingly, this investment paid off big time. Located just outside of downtown LA, once open to the public, Westlake became the city's most picturesque park, and the surrounding real estate exploded in value. The upscale neighborhood of Westlake saw a boom in development and became wildly popular with the city's residents, soon being considered one of the most fashionable residential neighborhoods in the city. Modeled after world-class European parks, Westlake Park featured elegant promenades and a magnificent lake dotted with various types of boats that one could rent by the hour. The park's romantic beauty made it a world-class destination where by 1910, around 500,000 people visited every year. Westlake, the neighborhood that had grown around the park, skyrocketed in value and quickly became an exclusive high-class residential district lined with New York-style apartment houses and Victorian mansions and cultural institutions like the Otis Art Institute. But although Westlake was an exclusive neighborhood, the park was easily accessible to all citizens via streetcar that stopped right outside its gates. Walking around, you can still see remnants of this past. Now, it's hard to pinpoint one specific reason why MacArthur Park has fallen so far. I mean, how could a place that was once considered the Champs-Élysées of Los Angeles now be universally known as a place to avoid at all costs? Well, several factors contributed to the park's decline. By the 1920s, many of the city's richest residents were moving west to other rapidly expanding neighborhoods to build their homes, but the park still remained popular. Still, this meant that people with money were leaving and bringing their wealth with them. As a result, over time, the surrounding neighborhood began to experience economic decline with fewer resources and investments. As neighborhood neglect spiraled, a slow creeping decline set in, and MacArthur Park began to lose its status as an upscale destination. Then, as what many residents saw at the time as the beginning of the end of the glory years, in the 1930s, LA city planners decided to construct the Wilshire Boulevard road extension, which cut directly through a major portion of the park, bisecting it completely, reducing its size and accessibility, also destroying a large portion of its beautiful greenery and lake. It's said that this changed the park's green, tranquil landscape to one with a busy road running straight through the middle, which residents claimed introduced increased traffic, noise, pollution, which disrupted the park's once peaceful environment. The fragmentation of the park made it less attractive for recreation and gatherings, while the neighborhood was simultaneously falling to neglect. For many, the name changed from Westlake Park to MacArthur Park in 1942 after General Douglas MacArthur was a symbolic death knell, marking the end of the park's glory years and forever the start of a new era. Fast forward to the 1980s, and MacArthur Park became commonly known throughout LA for prostitution, drug dealing, shootings, with as many as 30 murders in 1990 alone. When the lake was drained in 1973 and 1978, hundreds of handguns and other firearms were found disposed at the bottom. Today, from what I can see, MacArthur Park has become a hotspot for the massive homeless population in the city, and it still seems like there's a lot of open-air drug use and gang activity around. So I'm walking around the west end of the park right now, and it's pretty relaxed over here. There's just people hanging out, doing what you would normally do in a park. I've got a couple looks, but probably just because I have a camera and it's kind of weird. I'm gonna head over to the east side of the park where it seems like there's a little bit more activity over there.
Here I go, 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 go. Oh, Alfredo, poor cigarette.
Thank you. Well, I have to admit that this side of the park just seems a little bit more dicey. There's just a lot of people hanging around. Nobody's giving me any issues, but just in general, you feel a little bit more on edge walking around over here, especially with a camera. From what I've read, fentanyl is the main drug that plagues this area, and it's 50 times stronger than heroin. And you can see evidence of this drug everywhere by the way people are sprawled out on the ground or contorted in weird positions by what emergency workers call the fentanyl fold. From the sounds of it, it feels like there's either a police car, ambulance, or fire truck passing by every 5 minutes. Overall, the park just looks a lot more run down in this area. There's a lot of trash, graffiti, things are broken. Besides the gatherings of people just doing drugs out in the open on this side, around the edges of the park, it seems like there's just a lot of people selling stuff, going about their daily lives, trying to make a living. There's one alley behind the Yoshinoya restaurant over there that's supposed to be one of the worst alleys in LA. And when I was passing by, it looked like there was somebody deceased there. Or the police were cleaning up a dead body. Besides the general kind of depressing vibe around this side of the park, there's just a lot of people hanging around, doing drugs out in the open. It doesn't seem like there's anybody stopping them. But on the other side of the street, opposite the park, you can see a lot of fencing going up that the city has set up in what I'm guessing is an attempt to kind of clean up the area. I'm not sure of the effectiveness of this, but when I looked up why this fencing was put up by the city, it's an attempt to stop the illegal sale of stolen items that's been going on in the area, so they say. So the city wanted to disperse the area and put up fencing there to kind of manage that. I do know this fencing is controversial because there's a lot of street vendors that use that space to sell their items and make a living, and this has displaced a lot of those people. MacArthur Park and Westlake in general is known as a landing area where a lot of immigrants come from Central and South America, lay down roots, and just try to make a living in the area any way they can. I have seen a police presence here, police walking their beat along the edges of the park, so there is a police presence here. From seeing the conditions that this park's in now, it's really hard to believe that over 100 years ago, this whole area was considered an urban oasis. But those days are definitely far behind because now parts of the park seem more like an urban nightmare, in my opinion. It's not all bad though. Amidst some of the darkness of all the drug use that's going on, there's people playing soccer over here, kids playing on the playgrounds, there's families walking around, so it's not all bad. One bright spot near the park is an old-fashioned deli called Langer's, which is an iconic Los Angeles destination. It has been here since 1947. Unfortunately, this neighborhood has deteriorated so much in the last 77 years that the owner, Norm Langer, announced last year that he was thinking about closing the place if the neighborhood and the park wasn't cleaned up, which would be a huge loss to not only Los Angeles, but the whole area.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Do you have any meth by any chance?
Have any what?
Meth.
No, I'm
All right.
sorry. That guy passing by just tried to hit me up for some meth. So yeah, it's that type of place. It looks like he found a guy to give him some on the next bench over. It's just all pretty much out in the open. Just walking around, I saw a lot of vacant buildings and for rent signs, which is probably an indicator on how hard it is to run a legit business in an area like this. To get an idea how much MacArthur Park and the surrounding area of Westlake has changed over the years, I wanted to show some before and after photos of some of the majestic buildings that at one point inhabited the skyline here, many of them now in disrepair or lost in time. The good news is that not all is lost, and with a little investment and remodeling, I think many of these buildings could be restored to their former glory. As for MacArthur Park, there have been talks recently of closing Wilshire Boulevard and restoring the park to its original design. Whether or not this solves some of the park's major issues, only time will tell. But if you spend time here and look past some of the darkness, people trapped in the grips of homelessness, addiction, mental illness, or all of the above, like a diamond in the rough in some of its now crumbling landscape, you can still see a hint of its past glory, when it was considered the jewel in the crown of the LA park system. Maybe someday MacArthur Park will retake that crown.
Tell me, now, this minute, do you love me?
Yes, I do.